January can be quite a challenging month. Certainly in the garden there's not such a lot happening, although snowdrops and hellebores are making a very reluctant appearance, and I think they're resisting this rather cold, bleak time that we're all experiencing. Flowers, however, are a great uplift, a great cheery thing to enjoy during these rather dismal winter days. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune to make a sensational arrangement that can give you so much pleasure and enjoyment. I always like doing a little bit of a forage when I go out on a dog walk, and my eyes are always peeled looking in the hedgerows to see what's around. And something that's gorgeous at the moment are twigs. There's some sensational twigs that are covered in mosses and lichens and really gnarled and knobbly and oozing textural interest. So I've gathered a few twigs to begin to make an arrangement, and I'm just using this container here. And you could use a bowl, you could use a dish, you could use a saucepan, could be anything that you made this into. And what I've done, I've started to just lay the twigs across the surface area of the container. I'm just going to feed a few more just into here, just to start to get a shape and a pattern. And what you can do with some pieces of the twigs, if they feel a little bit too much like they're moving around, is just anchor them every now and again with a little bit of wire. If you haven't got wire, don't worry, you could tie them together with a little bit of string or some cotton or wool. Anything like that would work, garden twine, anything that you've got to hand. And just sort of nipping the odd ones together just gives it a degree of stability before we go on to the next stage of this design. Really quick and easy to make arrangement this, so I hope that you'll feel inspired to have a go and let those creative juices flow. So once you've got a template of horizontal twigs just laying over the container there, I'm just loving all this moss, it's fantastic. Then I can take a few more branches and just start to actually push down into the container itself. Some of these twigs I know are from elderberry, and some are from the blackthorn, and there's a selection from all sorts of different twigs that I found. Some had actually blown off. We've had so much wind, haven't we? Some had blown down onto the floor, so I couldn't resist gathering them. I'm one of those sort of rather odd people you always catch coming back from a dog walk with a trophy of something natural, be it fungi, be it twigs, be it a bit of greenery. You know, I can never resist bringing something back with me. I think I'm the hoarder gatherer of the family. Although what I gather isn't much use to anybody except myself, really. Well, at this time of year, we're all anticipating the arrival and the start of being able to get out in the garden and to do some tidying up. And we have had a few odd days. We had quite a bit of snow here, certainly in Derbyshire where I am at the moment. So it's just starting to dry out now a little bit, the garden, although possibly snow is again predicted this week, so we will have to see. But I have been doing a little bit of tidying up and just sort of getting it ready for the arrival of springtime. And it's amazing to see all the bulbs pushing through, the hellebores are starting to flower, things like the flowering currant forsythia, just loads of buds starting to form on there. So there's lots of optimism always to look forward to. So I've just added further twigs into the design here, and the next thing that I want to arrange in here are some catkins. And the glorious thing about hazel catkins is the fact that they open out gradually, and it takes time for them to fully open out and produce those wonderful dancing pendulous forms in lime green, which are wonderful. I absolutely love them. They are, to me, the epitome of the anticipation of springtime. However, do take care with catkins, because once the pollen bursts forth, then it does emit clouds of that sort of wonderful dusky pollen everywhere, and do take care on certain polished furnitures. It can leave a few unnecessary and rather annoying marks, and certainly on fabric and things. It's a bit like lily pollen, so do pay heed. But however, although I'm saying that, don't overlook them. Still pick them and enjoy them. Hazel catkins have been opening out, I noticed, right from November time last year, and some trees are sort of fully open, some trees are very much tight in bud, but what you can do is bring them indoors and force them, which is what I've done with a few that I'm going to use in a moment. And if you keep them somewhere warm, then usually in about a week to 10 days they will start to open out. But saying that, you can also retard them, so you can reduce that growth pattern down by putting them somewhere cold and keeping them somewhere dark, and then they'll just sit there, they'll do absolutely nothing until you're ready to arrange them. So going out foraging, if you are foraging, then forage with care and caution. Don't ever take anything that is protected or there's only a small quantity of. And don't do sort of lasting damage to any plants or trees or shrubs. And often if you ask people if they've got things growing in the garden or even in supermarket car parks, if you speak to the supermarket managers, they'll often say, oh yeah, take some of that, that's absolutely fine. So do use restraint and respect and common sense. So if I just turn this around, you can probably see how I'm going there. I've just got my catkins in place in here and all the wonderful twigs there. So I've got all that in position. And what this will do now is act as an anchor platform to hold flowers, foliage, whatever I wish to place into here. So you could keep ringing the changes and adding some different flowers in there. Now, like many of my Harrogate show friends, I'm sure that as a fellow canny Yorkshireman, we always have an eye peeled for a bargain. So I noticed there were some reduced roses in the supermarket a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh, they're fine, there's nothing wrong with those. I'm going to cut them short and just place some roses through here. So I'm going to add in the roses, and what I am going to do is remove most of the foliage from the rose, because I don't really want the rose to compete against the twigs with those unnecessary leaves on there. And occasionally, you can just nip away a couple of the lower petals on the roses, which in floristry we call the guard petals, and they're often the first petals that get bruised or knocked or damaged. And just by nipping those away, it primarily sort of tidies up the bloom, and it doesn't do any lasting damage at all to the rose. So to remove a guard petal, all we do is sort of just bring that petal down so it's laying horizontal to the neck of the rose. Get thumb and fingers tight in there to the bud, and then just tease those away. So just take those two off there, and then you're ready to go. And then stripping away the leaves. Now, the observant ones amongst you might think it's not got any water into that arrangement at the moment. Well, I'm going to put some in here, but I didn't want it to be swishing around with water as I'm sort of tipping it and tilting it to share what I'm doing with you all as you're very kindly watching this. Well, although we are still in a serious stage of lockdown, I think many of us are anticipating brighter times ahead. Now we've got the inoculation out there and the vaccine rather out there, and we're hoping that we can get that obviously distributed as quickly as possible so we can all very much look forward to the long-awaited arrival of a degree of normality. And one thing that I'm looking very much forward to and anticipating with great hope is, of course, Harrogate Flower Show, which we all know is happening in April, at the latter end of April there. And I'm sure for many of us, that show we greatly missed last year, and we desperately hope that we can enjoy it this year. And I'm planning on being there each day of the show to present some flower talk demonstrations to inspire you all to get arranging, to get creative, and to do something pleasurable, yet simple and achievable with beautiful flowers, many of which are things that you can grow in the garden. And of course, I like to share lots of top tips for what you can grow for arranging, because the more you've got in your garden, folks, the better. And certainly here in the garden, just outside where I'm sat here doing the arrangement for you, there's always something that I can go and pick and bring indoors to enjoy, be it something like some green or some red or gold stems of winter dogwood that corners at this time of year, a few humble stems of snowdrops, or simply floating a few hellebores just very informally in a glass bowl. So there's always something out there to pick and enjoy. So a few more roses just going in here. I know it seems harsh always, and sometimes people get a little bit perplexed about the stripping down of the foliage and taking the foliage away, but really leaving the foliage on is not doing anything to enhance the arrangement at all. So I don't feel bad about taking that away, because it's just unnecessary clutter. And you do find, particularly for commercial roses that have been imported. These have most likely come in from Kenya. They are not great with the foliage. The foliage does easily get damaged and starts to drop and decays far quicker than the rose head itself. So be brave, everybody. Nip those unnecessary leaves away. So it's really looking quite sort of colourful, and colours that I wouldn't necessarily choose to put together if I was selecting individual colours, but this was a mixed bunch of roses, and you know, that very strong zingy pink, whoops, got losing a rose down there, and the white, the ivory white there, and this bold bright yellow are quite happy colours. And it's almost sort of taking inspiration a little bit from the Pantone colour scheme for this year, which is the grey through to gold, and that mixture of those colours there. You know, at the minute we're sort of in the doldrums of greyness, but we're all anticipating the hope to come from the golden times ahead, the golden summer sunshine and the brighter days that we can hopefully look forward to. So a few catkins, these are the ones that I mentioned earlier that I'd encourage to break into bloom almost prematurely by sort of giving them some heat fix. And I think we all enjoy a heat fix, don't we, during January, but that little injection of heat has certainly encouraged them out and given them the capacity to open out and bloom far quicker than they would do outdoors. So a little bit of that lime green just dancing through here. There's something quite naive, I always think, quite sort of childlike about catkins. They've got some real character about them. And they always make me smile when I see them, even dancing on the bushes when I'm out walking with my dog Allegra. I notice them, and I always think such happy, very sort of unaffected, very natural flowers. So just about there with this arrangement, and all I've done here is, since it's pretty much the same on both sides, is just arrange the roses just through there, just so we've got all those roses sort of dancing around in the design. And if I just sort of hold it towards you, you can see there just all that colour that we can enjoy. And what I'm going to do now is pop some water into here in a moment. I'm going to place that just on a tall mantelpiece with a mirror behind it. Equally, it would look great sat on a window ledge or a low table. So have a bash, go out and forage some twigs, get some ideas from what nature's got to offer. Buy a few inexpensive flowers from the supermarket, or if you're able to access flowers through a florist or order online, then do that, create an arrangement, and let's all look forward to the hope and inspiration that Harrogate Flower Show will bring us during springtime.